Well, I want to bring in right now Kristofer Goldsmith, retired U.S. Army sergeant and Iraq war veteran, also CEO of Sparvarius, that is specializing in detecting extremism and disinformation. And to that end, he once infiltrated the Patriot Front group that we are talking about on this very day. Chris, thank you. The Southern Poverty Law Center says this is a white nationalist group, and you got to know some of these members. So who are they? Where do they live? What are they like?
They live all over the country, and I think it's important that we don't identify them the way that they identify themselves in public. We should identify them the way that they identify themselves to each other, and that's as nationalist socialists, Nazis.
That's frightening. National socialists. I'm writing down some notes here. Nazis. You say they come from all over the country, but who are they? Identifying that way, but what kind of jobs do they hold? I mean, surely they have to do something to support this, because this is not to support their livelihood. I mean, this is not a money-making venture, right?
Yeah, so there's a few members who live together in Haslett, Texas, with the founder, Thomas Rousseau, who was arrested yesterday. None of them have real jobs. Their jobs are basically promoting this Nazi organization. But the rest of the members, they're the highest I think they've reached is around 200 around the country. They're everything from engineers to waiters. These folks who were arrested yesterday include people who have established histories of committing hate crimes. They document them themselves, and all of this is available online.
How many of them are there?
So there were 31 arrested yesterday. A bunch of those names were new to me. They're going into my database. The most that we know of is they've reached about 220. Part of the problem with this organization is every time they get too big for their britches, they go out and get either arrested like this, or they faced some anti-fascist activists who teach them a lesson. And then they have a bunch of people quit and drop off.
What do you mean by teach them a lesson? I mean, I'm going to interpret it to what I think, but what do you mean?
So in December, they did a march through D.C., and they had another infiltrator, who I don't know, who had identified their vehicle exchange point. Right now, there's a parking lot full of cars belonging to Patriot Front members. That's where they got into the U-Haul. They take the U-Haul, they go to the Pride Parade or wherever they're going to get out and try to commit violence, and then they get back in the U-Haul and go to those things. So in Virginia, there were a bunch of anti-fascist activists who redecorated those cars.
What was your experience like when you infiltrated this group? I mean, did you ever have any fear, not only for what they were doing, but what could happen to you were you to be discovered?
So I worked with a partner. I had a buddy of mine who I served with in Iraq who joined in person. I was running basically the digital side. So I had full access to their Rocket Chat, which is basically an open source version of Slack. It's what they use to communicate with one another. They share their plans for, getting in fights, for destroying property, committing hate crimes, that type of thing. So I got to see for over the course of a few months exactly how they operate and how much of a serious threat that they are. What people need to realize is we can't use the terms that they use to describe themselves, right? The Unite the Right rally was not an alt-right rally. It was a neo-Nazi rally. They trick us into describing themselves as white nationalists. They're not white nationalists. They're Nazis. They believe that Jews, people of color, the LGBT community should be rounded up and killed. They believe in genocide. These people need to be stopped. And the FBI, to my knowledge, has not pressed charges. This right now, this conspiracy to riot is state-level charges. It's going to have a $300 fine for each one of these guys, and they get to go home. The feds, because these people traveled from interstate or crossed a bunch of state lines. They plan this over the internet. There's a ton of paper crimes that they can be charged with. And though they are minor, the FBI can move forward with this. They have, all of this stuff is out in the open.
I got to tell you, Kristofer, I hope the FBI is listening to this interview because I think they ought to be getting in touch with you to talk about what you know. Again, as CEO of Sparvarius, thank you very much. Very sobering chat with you, but I appreciate it.